Hello, everyone. I'm Jim Garrison, and on behalf of the trees and all of nature, I want to welcome all of you to this 420th session of Humanity Rising on this very somber day of the 24th of February, 2022, a day, to paraphrase what Franklin Roosevelt said about the bombing of Pearl Harbor, a day that will go down in history as a day of infamy. As you all know, I'm sure wherever you are around the world, today is the day when a combination of Russian and Belarusian forces invaded the sovereign nation of the Ukraine. We are unsure of all the facts. We're now in what the famous German military strategist Clausewitz called the fog of war. We're now in a time of uncertainty. We do know there have been various attacks, artillery bombardment in various cities and locations around Ukraine. All of us will be tuning ourselves to the media to get further information. But as we have always done since the beginning of Humanity Rising, back in the May of 2020, we've noted world events as they've unfolded of all kinds, as the world develops in a very kinetic and interconnected way. So today, we want to begin our program by just expressing our solidarity with the people of the Ukraine. It turns out that one of our staff, we have a global staff at Ubiquity University, which is empowering and supporting Humanity Rising. One of our staff lives in the Ukraine and is in the Ukraine as we speak. Katie Timochuk, who's our graphic designer. If you've seen our logo for Humanity Rising or Ubiquity, that's basically Katie. She's a brilliant graphic designer. And she is with her mother actually at the hospital. But we have been talking about what we as a staff and what we as Humanity Rising and Ubiquity University, what we can do in this moment to express our solidarity. So we've invited Katie to join us to just share. Katie, if you'd like to come on to just tell us what you're feeling, what you're hearing, and we'll have a brief conversation. Then we'll turn to our program. So Katie, please turn on your video and tell us what is happening there as you're experiencing it. Thank you so much for joining.
Hello, Jim, and everybody around the world. Well, thank you for the opportunity to speak. Well, it's a tough day. I'm holding my emotions really to be able to speak. Today I woke up around 7 a.m. By the call of my mom saying that not hello, not the good morning, but saying that the war started. And then the whole day feels like a complete nightmare. There are lots of cities and locations already bombarded by the Russian and Belarusian army. Kiev, the capital of sovereign state, hearing sirens about people getting down to the safe places to protect themselves from the missiles. So it really feels like war. This is the first. It really feels terrible. I'm grateful that the part when I'm currently now is not affected so much, but I know that there are lots of fireplaces all over the border. from the good news, I really appreciate every Ukrainian, at least those whom I seen today. Everybody feels like staying very positive, believing in our army, believing in, because we are actually fighting for peace. We're not going to conquer anybody, we're just protecting our country and our freedom. And all the claims of Russia about, us asking for help or living in a terrible condition over the last 8 years that were said over the mass media, this is completely insane and it's untruth. And I feel like we don't really need anybody to help us. We are good to be like that, and we're good to grow our country. We just really need peace, and we need love. And the things that we experience right now is just the opposite from that. Though I really want everybody to know that this is not media or this is not disinformation. This is real, and I really want everybody to, I don't know, to do any action, spread information, donate, talk to their governments, talk to anybody who can influence the situation, because I don't feel like it's threat only for Ukrainian peace, it's threat for the whole Europe at least. And then if one day we can experience one country just invading another one without any reason and killing people here, it can happen to another one just next day. So I don't know. I'm really trying to hold myself and to hold myself for all the Ukrainians that are fighting right now, because this is not the moment for panicking. And yeah, thank you for listening to me and knowing what's really happening in Ukraine is terrible.
Thank you, Katie. Where exactly are you in Ukraine?
Well, I'm on the Western Ukraine. Speaking really easy, I'm in the middle between Kiev and the border with Poland. So I'm exactly in the middle, but already some cities on the Western Ukraine were affected too. For example, there is a quite small city called Ivano-Frankivsk, which is near to Leopolis, the next region to Poland, and the airport already on fire since morning. So they are attacking infrastructure and they're attacking infrastructure so far. But Kiev is really next region. Kiev region is really next to Belarus and the border with Belarus. And this is where the real fight is happening, also on the east. And they're really like, the whole, let's say, eastern Ukraine from the river Dnipro that divides Ukraine is under attack. Odessa also, the south, the north, and even as I said, as I noticed before the meeting, there is the attack on the Chernobyl nuclear station right now happening, and Ukrainian forces are protecting, because this is strategic object not only for Ukraine but for the whole Europe, and we don't really know what's happening. I'm also living in the small city that has nuclear power station now functioning. So this is a very, very, um, let's say I feel a little bit more safer, because I know there is like also forces to protect the station. But I feel like if in case, like any missile come there, it's again nuclear catastrophe and not just the war anymore. So that's really another thing to consider, that there are lots of strategic objects that cannot be affected over this crisis and war.
Yeah, that's a very important point, everyone, that Katie's making. Is Ukraine has one of the highest concentrations of nuclear power plants of any country. You all remember the meltdown of the Chernobyl power plant. I forget when it was, 1985, 86, Katie,
86.
which is still a relic given the radiation and so forth. You can just imagine what would happen if any one of the power plants were bombarded and there was a massive release of radiation. It could kill millions and millions of people, not just locally, but depending on wind conditions, it could blow and contaminate much of Europe itself, depending on the currents of the winds and so forth. So it's a very dangerous situation, and we wish you all the best. One thing that we want to announce today that Katie's going to help us with, I just put in the link in the chat, a link to World for Ukraine. We decided as a staff to support Katie, so Peter Mary, our Chief Innovation Officer, came up with the idea of a buddy system. So Katie's going to identify some people there that need a buddy, and we here at Humanity Rising and Ubiquity University have already created a Facebook page, and you can join that Facebook page. So if you're interested in helping someone in the Ukraine, just person to person, heart to heart, we would welcome that, because we don't have much control over what's happening between Putin and Biden and all of that, but we do have the capacity to send love to individual people there in the Ukraine, starting with Katie, and just expressing our love and appreciation for her and the people that we will now begin to interact with, as just the way that humanity can rise in the midst of even war at this particular time. I also want to say that Katie will be joining us over the next days as this whole thing unfolds, with sort of daily reports from the front line, as it were, which will enable us to stay in tune and also informed, and also have a mechanism to help. So Katie, anything you would like to say about this? Any final words you would like to bring to our attention today?
Yeah, indeed. I want to say that I'm very grateful to be a part of Ubiquity and the company and employees that are able to do this kind of initiatives. And I do appreciate it. I hope many people can actually use it and connect. And honestly, being heard these times also matters. Being heard what's happening here and how terrible it is, it also matters. So I do appreciate what you're doing and what other people in Ubiquity and Humanity Rising is doing right now. And I hope we can engage more people into this initiative. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Katie. You know, it's a powerful thing when in the midst of carnage, we can love, just simply love. In the powerlessness of what we all feel to stop what's happening, we can still love one another. We can love Katie. We can love the people that we're going to buddy up with. And it's in that spirit, actually, that I want to expand our discussion now to love. As synchronicity would have it, the program for today was in partnership with CARE International, and an idea that they have had to create a 7-year plan of how we can deepen and expand our love connections with one another. You know, we've heard of Marshall plans and COVID plans and economic plans and all kinds of plans. I'm sure Putin and Lukashenko in Belarus have their plans. NATO has their plans. Well, we want to introduce today a plan for loving one another. And so, Katie, as you sign off, just feel yourself enveloped with love. That's all we can offer. And that happens to be the strongest force in the world. And let us never forget that, because that's what's most fundamentally true. In that spirit, I'd like to welcome Louis Boatlink, who has been someone that I've gotten to know over the last months, someone who came up through Humanity Rising, a man that's so full of goodness and the joy of life that we instantly made a connection, and we've had him on before. So Louis, I just want to turn the program now over to you in the spirit of solidarity with the Ukrainian people to talk to us about how we can more deeply love.
Thank you so much, Jim. So everyone else can turn, you can, Mark, Sandra, Karen, you can all turn your video on. Duran. And Jim, you also keep yours on? Yeah, thank you. So, yeah, thank you also. First, thank you, Jim, for what you're doing. And I will take us into the inner spaces and everything that we wanted to do. But it is an incredibly powerful event, and for me, very tearful to listen to Katja. I mean, when somebody speaks, I'm where they are and I feel what they feel. So we are sitting here relatively safe, but when you're there, I was born in the Netherlands in 1950. So I heard everything that had happened to the country through the Second World War. And you can feel the effect of all that. But to be in the real situation where the bombs can drop on the houses of your friends on your own is something else. And there is a mystery to this moment. So I never act in things too fast. But when you were just telling me about Kathy's inspiration and Peter Mary, who I know, for the buddy system, I thought that is exactly what we are about to launch March 1st with a ready-made website where we could register the planet in holding hands to hold the light of love steady for the next 7 years. Just an inspiration that came to me almost out of nowhere. But the application of that directly into the situation of Ukraine, I mean, would be an amazing thing. So even if we don't share anything today, but just, go into connection with you and Katie on seeing what we can do in joining forces with that buddy system. Because what I'm just setting up, Jim, if we started on the March 1st and you and I decide to hold hands in a personal, intimate commitment to hold that field of love steady for the next 7 years, I say to you, Jim, you can register yourself on the website. It's a registry. I'm already on it. So you link in. Your identity is protected. You don't even have to put your profile picture in. But it is shown on a world map that I in Scotland and you in Lausanne, in California are connected. Then we take Kathy's hand. And so everything is brought together. Then people know it's not just you and I holding hand. If 200 or 300 people have done it and they all hold Katya's hand, she knows she is consistently connected into that love together. And we only do that, whatever our ideas are. So it's an amazing thing that this is happening, and very, very difficult, of course. So I definitely want to be with that and want to be with that afterwards. And I had the feeling myself that after this call, I would approach you personally and talk about whether we want to hold hand in hand, because it's a very, very personal thing in my mind. It grounds the depth of friendship, the depth of love. When you let that energy hold that circle, not just quickly holding hands, it's very, very powerful. So I'm happy to take everyone inside into our inner spaces, but I would like to say, is there any of us feeling that you would like to share something before I take us into meditation? Okay, I'll take us into meditation. So let's close our eyes and relax. And I want to ask us all to visualize an enormous heart, bigger than our planet. So big that the planet is held by that heart. That the planet is inside of that heart. And I want to ask us all to call upon the forces that can help us as humanity to move through the crisis that we're in. And today specifically, to do everything to assist everyone in Ukraine, starting with Katie, everyone she knows, and every person in that country. And praying that the things that we are talking about, whether you call it buddy system, hand-in-hand initiative, that this may work. That this could be a silent action or an action out of our silence. And that it might influence the thoughts and brains and hearts of the ones who are attacking the Ukraine. That everybody may be supported and helped to go where we as humanity would like to go. So let's relax ourselves in our hearts. Relax ourselves in our bodies. Connect to our light, to our higher selves, and maybe we can visualize ourselves standing together in a woodland, holding hands, all of us and everyone listening to this call, and feel that for a moment. Together, holding hands. And then again, sending all the energy we have to Ukraine, but also to the people who are attacking, to assist them to find a better place, to find a place of love. So what I would like to do, not to stick with the program, but simply because I feel it in my heart, I will share something with you that I describe as a care-first world. So the members of the panel here, my wife Sandra Beutling, Mark Lejour, Karen McAllister and Doran Janssen with others are part of an international care-first council who actually came into being after our first Humanity Rising session in October 2020. We've been actively working on the most impactful, effective manner to communicate care first worldwide. So what is care first? So keep your eyes closed and I'll share with you something about this. Building a care-first world together. A care-first world is a world in which care for the well-being of people and our planet comes first. Money is used to make well-being possible. Everyone can provide for their basic human needs and develop themselves. We care for the earth, who provides us with so much. We experience the earth as a gift we can share with each other. We work with the understanding that we as humanity have the freedom to regulate the flow of money according to our deepest wishes and heart's desire, and that there is no need to accept the mess we are in. That together we can find the clarity to heal the financial world at its heart, and that this is the same as the healing of our own heart. The healing of our own heart will give us the clarity to direct money in this new way. The way of the heart is fully applicable in business. In paying our employees, we can express our appreciation for the work they have done and for who they are. In paying our suppliers, we can show gratitude for their service and give support and care for their business. When our customers appreciate our business because we provide quality and care for them, they gladly pay us. We can all be happy when fair profits are being made. It adds well-deserved value above cost by which we support ourselves. When the financial exchanges among people are fair and mutually supportive, it is a win-win situation for all. It is caring and supportive. It is real togetherness and sharing. In order to create a care-first world, I see 4 shifts we can make from one level of experience and consciousness to another. First shift: to move from a place where we try to get and take our piece of the gift towards standing around the gift and receiving and sharing it. Second shift: to move from ownership to stewardship. Third shift: to move from a use of money based on our greed, fear, power, selfishness, and possessiveness, to a use of money based on caring, sharing, loving, giving, and receiving. Fourth shift: to move from a money first to a care first attitude. When we apply care first, when we put care first and let money serve that care. We apply money first when we put money first at the expense of what we care about. I see money first and care first as the 2 aspects of our test with money. In a care-first world, we use money in service of our caring, our values, and our passion. We use it in service of the well-being of ourselves, each other, and the earth. Care first creates a love-based economy. In a money-first world, we use money at the expense of our caring, our values, and our passion. We use it at the expense of the well-being of ourselves, each other, and the earth. Money first creates a fear-based economy. When we look at care first and money first inside of ourselves, we can see that when we live in money first, we're tense, alone, in separation, fearful, and depressed. When we live in care first, we're strong, vibrant, happy, and most of all, in harmony with ourselves. Care first stabilizes the world because it stabilizes our psyche. Care first sustains the world because it sustains us. Money first destabilizes the world and is not sustainable. Can you see what will happen to our world when we move from a money first to a care first attitude? You can open up your eyes. Thank you. I wanted to ask everyone on our panel what it means to build the Care First world together, how it can serve us and our beautiful planet. What is the shift to Money First and Care First entail? What can the light of love do? We all know about our Hand in Hand initiative. So in the light of today, I would like to ask one of you to start and just share and speak. Would you be happy to start, Mark?
Thank you for the invitation to speak. And before reflecting on that, I just want to say how honored I am to be sharing this conversation and this exchange of ideas and of consciousness with each of you. I was diagnosed, as the word they use, as hypersensitive as a child. And my journey to this moment, I feel very much at home and prepared for this conversation. And it's been such a gift to meet Louis and this whole tribe. So it's an honor to be in this dialogue on such an important day and such an important time. Louis, I had a visual that I wanted to share because I think it helps to answer the question, but also it came up while you were reciting the charter, if you will, which is so inspirational. But I was thinking about life and us as individuals energetically. And in the world that at least I was brought up in, kind of west of the United States, very blue collar, very, very common ground. It was still a taking world. It was, what can I get? How do we survive? Life is hard. There's a whole consciousness and mentality. And I was thinking about that energetically when everyone, even from a good heart space, is in a mindset of what can they achieve in order to better themselves, in order to climb the ladder, in order to survive or to thrive. There's a finite nature to where that energy goes. And then I look at things from the other side. If everyone is in this caring, giving, service-based mentality or behavior set, the limitlessness of abundance that is around you, you have no choice but to accept what is being given by everyone around you. Whereas when you're in the taking, most of the time that the giving is coming from a place of, if I give, what can I get back? So it's a true paradigm shift. And the joy of co-creating this dialogue with this council, with these beautiful humans, has been such a refreshing heart space to be in. And it just feels natural. And it feels naturally aligned with where we are today in terms of what the world, I think, may be opening up to, even the reactions that are happening now to this situation in Ukraine. The reactions are so much more heartfelt and open and almost in dismay. And maybe that's a sign of a shift from when war was almost expected and normal and commonplace. We're finally starting to reach a place of shock and awe of this just can't be any longer. So in wrapping those comments, I believe that the subtle shift of recognizing that the giving stance or the giving behavior that one would implement individually opens up to unlimited abundance, and then therefore solves any and all pain points or disease or imbalances. And I think when people start to realize that, then the fears and the need for survival or the need for protection or the learned trauma behaviors can start to relax and eventually disappear. And then you have room for things like happiness and joy and ultimately unconditional love.
You're muted, Louis.
I said, Mark, bless you. Thank you so much. Thank you. So, Karen, Doran, and Sandra, any of you like to come next? Sandra.
Thank you, Louis. Thank you, everyone visual, everyone hidden, every type of being that sits with us today on any level in this extraordinary situation of world events. I wanted to apologize because a few days ago, I felt I wanted to write what I would like to say today. And then because of how we are starting with Katie and such a focus, I wasn't totally sure how suitable mine would be. However, I'm also talking about abundance. So I felt I wanted to follow Mark and keep that thread going for a while. So if I may, I'm going to read it to you. Building a care-first world together, for me, is going beyond our isolations, our self-built boundaries and limitations. For myself, I feel I have lived in the shadows a certain amount of my life, doing the right things, but not being in love with my inside self and not loving what I do enough. Those shadows have meant I keep myself too small and don't allow the love for myself or for the world to flow in a natural, abundant way. I believe we are now required to change the way we see ourselves and put a new focus on where we need to be and how we can act into society. So much fear has been connected to how we use our monetary systems, as if we don't recognize what abundance means and what a gift abundance is, and the fact that it is all around us all the time, and what the world would look like if we all began to share. We seem to be blind to that reality somehow, and that feeds our sense of lack. We don't work with the sense that the world is here for us, that the earth is our treasure chest, and that we are surrounded by abundance the whole day long. In my youth, I felt everything was against me, but maybe I was against myself. Maybe I've had to look at myself long and hard to see where my values lie. Am I capable of dancing with abundance? Am I free to deliver love and beauty to the world around me? Am I the one who will deliver love and peace and free the money world into a field of light and beauty? Will I run with the rivers and play with the stars and allow money to be my bride? I think so. I think I have found a yes in my heart to say that care first is the way I want to travel, not just for the world, but for myself in the first place. If I can free myself and ease my own pains, I will know how to help others into the light of love and joy, and we can celebrate then together. As humans, we are only part of a greater puzzle, but a very important part. We all need to link together so that we all fit into the whole intrinsically and beautifully. And there we will see how the puzzle will shine like a star itself. Money will want to take a journey with us all so that it too feels appreciated and feels as though it belongs and has a place on earth with us, a place that is of true beauty and bountiful creativity. Money too wants to be valued as a wonderful tool for the purpose of goodness for all concerned. If we treat it as something unwanted or dirty, it cannot breathe and will not hold any value as it passes from hand to hand. Care First will be a great relief for us all. It will ease our pains and frustrations and make space for us to receive the light of love, the light that is our birthright and our destiny. To allow the light of love to grow and strengthen amongst us, we are starting to take the hand of friends, relatives, and colleagues. Holding someone's hand fastens our intentions to care first in the name of love and helps us feel secure in our own work and world. I believe we are holding hands to secure the safety of our soul's journey here on planet Earth. Please feel welcome to request an invitation to hold hands together with me in the name of love. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, sweetie. So on January 1st, I shared my intention to hold the light of love steady myself. On February 1st, Sandra and I started holding hands, committing ourselves to hold that light of love steady for the next 7 years. I know that Sandra's already holding Doran's hand. When Doran and I meet and we want to talk about Care First, we naturally fall into silence for 4 or 5 minutes before we say anything. Are you happy to come next, Doran? And Doran is from the Netherlands, just like me.
But also living in the Netherlands, so my English is not quite as good as Louise is. And that's why I always also wrote something down, because every time when something really touches my heart, I feel like the English words for me don't come easily. And while I do it in Dutch, you don't understand me, but it would come more easily. So I always also wrote it down. And maybe I change it when I read it. I don't know, but we'll see. For me, building a Care First world begins with myself. And for me, it is first acceptance of what it is. And that's the outside world, which I find sometimes very difficult, and what's in me. And just be with that. And be present in that moment where everything what needs to be felt in myself, I can feel. And by just be with that, I really feel that I again connect to my heart. And that feels really truthfully. And when I connect to my heart, in a way, it's my true nature. I always act from care. I don't have to search it, it's just there. And for me, it was a long road, because when I was a young girl, I was the youngest and the only girl in my family. It felt really strange because I was looking around and I really didn't understood the world, because I was always asking, why don't you see what I see? Why don't you do what needs to be done? And even, why don't you hear me in what I say? And I was struggling just for only a few years ago. I spoke to Louis and he told me the simple words, moving from a money first to a care first world. And then I really understood what was happening, because I always act from care. But the only thing I saw was a world of money first. And just in that simple words, for me, it became an anchor and was also very healing for myself, because for that time, I was really struggling, fighting the world, trying to change it. And by these words, it came to me that I just need to be with that, accept what's there, and always connect myself to my heart. And because for me, building a care first world is building from I wrote down, I believe, a new source, but I feel it as an original source. And that's a source where we're born with. It's the source of love. It's the source of true nature. And I really, really believe when we build from that place, we build an environment, a society where there's love, there's care, and there's safety, and there's no need for war. And yeah, even today, it's so close to us, that war, in a way. And it's not a world of control, using others or whatever. And it's a society where everybody thrives in his own way. And that's why I really feel that we must build a care first world together, because sometimes I felt very, very, very lonely in my environment. And I feel what can happen when we are together at the council, the international, and even the council in Holland. And it feels like when we are building from a care, from our hearts, we will find new ways, because I had an education in a certain way, and sometimes I really have to be very aware what I'm doing. And I think that we can find ways we can't imagine yet, because when we start from another place, we will come to another place. And so in a way, it's quite simple to build a care first. Just start from another starting point, and there will be always another outcome. And yeah, and we can be part of that, everybody. So just be with your heart again and again and again, even when it's a struggle, or you make mistakes, or you are still learning. It doesn't make a difference. Just connect to your heart. And that's why also the field of love is so important, because for me, it connects. When I connect with that field, I connect with myself, with my heart, but I also feel the love of a lot of other people, and I feel stronger, and I feel in a way that I'm carried and that I'm helped. And the most important thing is that I know I'm not alone, and that we are building together. So thank you for listening.
Thank you, Doran. Bless you. Thank you so much. Yeah, so of course, I'm also seeing that there's loads of communication in the chat. And of course, we had completely included that, but we're in a particular flow. So I would like to complete that flow by inviting Karen to share, and then maybe Jim to respond. And then we're looking into the chat and trying to respond to as many things as all of you, wherever you are sharing. So I'd just like to introduce Karen. We have been working since 2004 with a workshop called Meeting the Mystery of Money, which plays out the archetypal story, in my experience, of our test with money. It's a very powerful threshold crossing experience, quite a shamanic journey. And we did that offline for a long time. But as soon as COVID started, we started doing it online. So Doran is sitting in a Dutch team facilitating that workshop. Karen sits in an English team. And now at the moment, Karen, Sandra, I, and another guy from the Netherlands are doing that course with young people from the pop movement, Protect Our Planet. They're all young people out of Mexico, India, who are actively working with trying to save the planet that they're living on. They're between 18 and 24. And they are coming into a course with us that we call the Meeting Mystery of Money course. So Karen and I got to know each other really well. So I just would like to ask you, Karen, share whatever you would like to share.
Thank you, Louis. And just a shout out to Kathy and for sharing what you did share. And if I feel in a place of silence after hearing that and what's happening in the Ukraine at the moment. And then Jim talking about Ukraine having 4 nuclear plants. And it brought me back to being 14 years of age and being in Ireland when I heard of Chernobyl, and it brought me right back to that. And brings a lot of sadness to my heart. So I'm Irish, and I grew up in a country that has been at war for a very long time, since the 13th century, 14th century. Protestants against Catholics, and being a colonized country by the British Empire, and then by the church. So I have all the conditioned patterns of being colonized, shall we say, and knowing very much from a body point of view, feeling lesser than, or feeling inferior, or having my language, the Gaelic, the Irish language, having been taken away. So, and having money being made more important than our country's culture, and having money made more important than the environment, and having money being made more important than our relationships with each other. So there's a true humanitarian in me from a very young age that has wanted to put heart and love and care in front of money, very much so. So it's been my long life passion of understanding this illusion of separation that we have created as a human species among each other. And it's been my path to learn how to let go of the illusion of a separate sense of self. And that's why I've been on a spiritual journey from a very young age, and wanting to understand how we can return from a sense of separate self to a place of feeling that Mark and myself, or Duran and myself, or Sandra and Louis we're just one beating heart. Just one beating heart together. And to get there, it's as Mark said, it is a paradigm shift, and as Sandra said, it needs to begin with me, right? And begin with what I've learned, the unconscious inherited assumptions that I've learned from the social and culture that hasn't really been built on self-reflection, has been built on accumulating more, has been built on getting ahead, or as Mark said, being really competitive, and I win because Mark loses, right? And so really looking at, there's been a lot of talk on abundance, but really coming to look at, well, you know, I've really been built around a deficit sense of self, around a sense of hating myself, as Sandra has said. And how do I turn that around? And so beginning with myself, but having mentors, people that have walked this path, that have experienced in abundance, experienced in opening the heart, is really important. Because like anything that you learn, whether it be being a potter or anything, you need a master. You need someone that is more experienced than yourself to help you walk through that and learn to open your heart. And it's true, being with that, being an apprentice, that those that have walked the path of the heart before is where I have found freedom, right? And found a way to place, to learn about generosity and leaning in when I don't feel so generous, and leaning in when I don't feel so open, leaning in when I'm full of self-hatred, or full of me feeling separate from another, right? So, yeah, that is a whole load of work. And then there's the community piece, right? So, you know, placing money first means placing money in front of community. So learning how to be a community is another big thing for us if we're going forward in order to heal the planet. And I liked what Louis said in his piece, in his pamphlet, which he said, looking at our present situation within 3 ecosystems: the ecosystem of the earth, the ecosystem of individuals, and the ecosystem of communities. And I want to read it out because I think it's very beautiful. Letting go of the illusion of separation, realizing we have more in common than what makes us different. Restoring any community's fabric by ending war and violence, and learning how to collaborate, organize ourselves, and live together in a heart-intelligent manner. So I'm going to leave it there, and may you all be really, really happy, really, really well and happy.
Thank you, Karen. Thank you so much. Wow. That beating heart, and the last thing that you read, I wrote it at some time, but thank you. So I want to be with everybody. I would like to communicate with everybody who's communicating in chat. I can't so quickly read it, so I'm very happy to go there at the right moment. But Jim, in being with us all, is there anything you wish to share? I know you were part of the first Care First panel, so you heard quite a bit about it, and it made a strong impression on you. But this, of course, is a particular kind of day. That's very clear. I'm here and I'm not here. It's not easy for me, but very, very happy that we're together. So Jim, is there anything you wish to share?
Well, I think, Louis, you described it very aptly, that we're all here and we're not here, given the events in the Ukraine. When something like this happens, it's so shattering of our sense of normalcy that we become kind of split and gripped with a cognitive dissonance where we don't quite understand what's going on because something happened that we knew was inevitable at one level, but we didn't believe was going to happen at another level. And we're not quite sure about what is the most authentic way to be with ourselves, much less to each other. So the only thing that we could think of to do was to embrace Katie, who's on our staff. And then out of that came World for Ukraine and the various things that we discussed and will be discussing over the next days. I think where I'd like to maybe steer the discussion for a bit, given the fact that Care First International and you have a plan that you've been launching, Lewis, on love, is how you actually understand love. What I would love to hear from several of you, at least, if not all of you, how would you actually define love? Love is one of those words like hope or faith or courage. We seem to intuitively know what it means, but we sometimes strain at the outer limits of language to actually define. But if we're going to be, talking about a 7-year program in love, what do we actually believe love means? What do each of you think love actually means? That would be very interesting, I think, for all of us.
Well, it comes out so quickly out of my mouth, and the immediate thing is it's the most normal thing on earth. The most basic, normal, useful, practical thing on earth. And it is the force that holds everything together here and when you pass over to the other side. When people die, we know that. They bathe in love. It's everywhere around them. So they have no question about what the thing is. So it's an incredibly powerful holding space. I leave it there for the moment. But I'm really happy that you asked the question.
So love is a holding space. Love as that which connects. Mark, what would you say?
I just actually had a presentation on Valentine's Day that really is in the heart, pun intended, of your question. And I want to refer back to one of the comments in the thread because that also supports this dialogue from a completely different view, which was, I'm not sure if we're supposed to mention the name, so I'll just say one of the...
please do.
Okay, this was Judy Hanmer's suggested. She said, thank you. I had never thought about people like Putin possibly acting out of learned trauma behavior. Seeing it that way opens the gates to compassion. And that last line, I believe, is where love lives. And to more specifically your question, I think that love is what exists before we learn how to be ourselves. We often learn, especially deeply subconscious definitions of love by those who abuse us most. So the hand that's hitting, or the words that are demeaning, or the society that is critiquing or judging, is actually setting up our paradigm for how we see and view love. And our consciousness has a definition of love, while our unconscious has a definition of love, while our conscious mind is saying, this is what I would love to be, or it's defined by movies or holidays or an ideal that yet doesn't resonate with our unconscious. And so therefore, going back to a moment of pause and stepping back into our heart, I speak that it's almost like if you're driving a car, we've been starting in second gear. We've been brain first, because that's the way we've been raised. What do I think about this? And so our actions are actually reactions that are informed by our unconscious behaviors or beliefs that have been learned as we've gone on. And so therefore, all of us are kids, and we're operating, or children, and we're operating from many times learned trauma triggers. And yet when we drop back into first gear, into our heart, which is always on, always connected, always exchanging information with the all, then we have an opportunity to reevaluate that definition, and we can actually reprogram and tap back into the infinite, unconditional love that we are and that is all around us.
That's very powerful, Mark. That the context shapes content. If you're in the grip of trauma, if you're in the grip of war, love means something very specific. And you're reminding me of that great line from Dostoevsky, that he loved me with his hate, And that was the strongest love there was. That it was in that suffering that was being inflicted on the protagonist that generated the deepest love. And he realized that there was a relationship between the trauma in the other individual and his own capacity to love. You know, one thinks of Christ on the cross. So you're making a very, very deep point there. So thank you for bringing it in. That's another aspect of love. Sandra, what would you say? What is love?
Well, thank you. Now we're on a track, aren't we? I think for me, I think the heart is kind of all forgiving, all encompassing. I think the difficulty, if I look at my own life, is being put into school at a very tiny age where you're all supposed to think hard and respond to what's on the blackboard. So this has been overworked. No one said, tell me about your heart. What do you feel inside? So I think it is the feeling that we are asking ourselves now to wake up that feeling of heart intelligence, because that, I think, that all encompassing field is what we need to think from. We can apply our head, we can apply all our feelings, all our natural impulses, but it has to start somewhere in this heart space. So I don't know what you've just said about hate, but I know that there's a place. I had a very, very difficult youth, very, very painful, very disturbing. I was completely traumatized. But when the consciousness began to unwind the story, I didn't hate anybody. I felt as if I knew what their problem was. I can't say I loved them at the time because I missed so much of a loving embrace and a loving homestead. But I don't think I blamed anybody, because I think these are the lessons that we all are moving through to find out, how do we get to this heart reality where the beauty decides over.
Yeah, you know, you're raising another aspect, a very profound aspect of love is forgiveness. Mm-hmm. And we ought to think about this with Putin, everyone, because right now Putin is being portrayed as the great enemy and the great aggressor. Yeah. And in a real sense, he is. And yet our responsibility is to love. And, you know, how do you love in that context? How do you say, Father, forgive them, they know not what they do, when they're bombing the country of our precious little Katie? You know, how do you actually do that? You know, it's a very profound question. How does one love when love is demanding forgiveness of the perpetrators?
Yeah, Jim, I'd like to say one thing to that before the run and Karen share. When I made my New Year's intention to hold the field of love steady, I had written something. I think you've also seen it. And in that piece, I wrote about how Sandra and I live together and communicate. So I have been in every cell of the abuse that she suffered at home. Her father and others. So when those things happen to you, what is love? What I, as Louis, have had throughout my life, that when I meet a person, any person, and I've never met anybody with whom I didn't feel it, I instantaneously feel who they really are. That love is only who we are. So to me, it lies right under everything. If somebody is in jail because they've abused and killed so many people, and after a while they begin to come to themselves and wonder what happened, and they begin to tell you what happened in their youth, you'll find a person, you'll find someone who sits in there. And however, hard it might be to say, whether it is Putin or anybody or Trump, that lovely self of you and that lovely self of me, I, as Louis, experience in everyone. And that gives me the connection to assist people. So what people would say to me when I started the love-based economy and the care first world, they said, Louis, what are you going to do with the people in power who control the planet? And I said, just create a space that is warmer than the space that they're in, and make sure that they feel welcome, like Alcoholics Anonymous. So I think it is in that depth that the love is so real. So when we hold hands from that place, then we can come a long way.
Well, I think that's very, very good, Louis, because I think what you're expressing exquisitely is love is compassion. You were able with every cell to enter into Sandra's trauma and identify with it and embrace it empathetically and hold it. And I think that's that. Well, the Buddhists, have a whole tradition, and religions have been built on the notion of love as our empathetic capacity to hold the suffering of others while they suffer. And that's obviously the bodhisattva. You're embodying the bodhisattva as you hold the suffering of Sandra and each and every person you meet. So that's thank you. That's another aspect of what love is. Love is a many-splendored thing, they say.
So Doran and Karen, what would you like to share?
Yeah, Doran, what would you say? What would you say love is?
Yeah, that's a difficult one, because for me, love is beyond words. It's what I experience in my body. Louis said we can sit together and be in silence, but we meet, we speak, we talk, but in another language. It's about heart to heart, and we even don't need words. And when I'm with others, I feel love when, I feel a connection, and it's not, I think I have a connection, I feel it in every cell of my body, and then everything is okay. It's not about good or bad or whatever. Sometimes the behavior for me is difficult, but even that's okay. And I'm not saying, okay, you can do everything you want, but it's also, acceptance is also a word what's connected to love. And it's not only by forgiving, but that even that goes beyond that, I think. So for me, I experience it in my body. I can feel it. I connect from it. And then I feel a flow. I feel okay. I feel happy. Yeah.
That's, love is cosmic unity, the experience of cosmic unity. That's beautiful. Love is what binds the whole thing together and keeps it as one. And Katie, if you're there and are available after Karen, I would love to have you talk to us about what you believe love is as you sit in the anvil of history in this moment. Karen, what would you say love is?
Oh my gosh, that's such a big question.
It's a big day.
Yes, it is. I like what Mark was saying about love. is in us. It's there, it's the source. And I can't seem to differentiate loving kindness without compassion, right? So I feel that the compassion is the love in action, and compassion is having very uncomfortable, challenging, difficult conversations. It's sometimes saying no and being energetic and being wrathful and saying stop, and it's not at all blissful at times, right? So and compassion, I feel, is something that you have to learn, and you have to learn not through a book, but just by making mistakes and falling flat on your face all the time and going, whoops, that wasn't very skillful there. So and it's becoming okay with the uncomfort and the discomfort in your own self and with what's going on. And I did learn over the years that it's you can't give love to somebody who's steeped in hate. They can't receive it. So it's great to have the loving kindness practice and include all human beings, all sentient beings in it. But then really learning to know what is the right thing to do at the right time to the right degree in any situation is like life's work in a way. So if I have a little girl and the little girl's about to cross the street and the car is coming, I'm going to shout and scream at the top of my lungs to keep her safe, right? So I guess the question, what is the compassionate action here now around helping Katie and helping Ukraine, as well as sending all the love and doing a beautiful loving kindness practice to all those people in the Ukraine at the moment. Yeah, and there's the other thing I wanted to say. I think the money culture creates kind of a mother wound. A lot of us, I think, in the West, money and productivity and all that has been placed in front of care and the mother's care and our own care of ourselves. And so I think in the West, part of our work is to heal the mother wound, right? Yeah.
Yeah, one
Thank
thing
you for that. And go ahead, Louis.
Before that, what I wanted to, I hope that you share, Kathy, what I'm feeling here, because talking about love is beautiful. But of course, in a situation like this with Ukraine, I want action. But what I'm seeing, that is what we're doing here. Because when you take the picture, Jim, let's say we could actually manifest, I just call it the inspiration that came to me. Hand in hand around the planet, a third of the planet actually doing this, holding that field. It is the experience of love that sits in that field, the depth of our experience of love that builds that field, that can help everything. So I think we're doing it all. I want to thank us all, and I would just like to take action, action, action. So Katie.
Well, before Katie comes on, I think what Karen, in her initial remarks, was saying something that's very profound, which Carl Jung called the antinomial reality about love. Normally, we think about love as compassion, embracing, forgiveness, but love also says no. Love can be Kali. Love can be a tyrant. Love can be a destructive force. One thinks of the Black Madonna. And, there's a verse toward the end of the book of Genesis in the Old Testament where Joseph is talking with his brothers. And you remember his brothers were the ones that got jealous of him and threw him into a well. And he was taken as a slave into Egypt, and one thing led to another, and he became the advisor to Pharaoh and led the Egyptians in a time of plenty to save their grain. And then when the drought came, and his brothers in Canaan were hungry. They came to Egypt and bought the grain. And Joseph said to them, very famous line. He said, "You meant what you did unto me as evil, but God meant it unto me as good, to save many people alive this day, including you." You know, so what, Karen, you're speaking to is that complexity of love, that the no of love can be a terrifying negation, but that it is always done in the name of our redemption, which in our ignorance we cannot see until we are redeemed. You know, and as Aeschylus said, drop by drop, pain that cannot forget falls upon the heart until in our despair, against our will, we gain wisdom by the awful grace of God. So I just wanted to note that that's actually a very profound other aspect of love that is worth considering. And but Katie, I don't know whether you're still with us or whether you can appear, but if you want to share what you think love is, we would love to hear what you have to say. She may be not available or can't come on. We'll see in a moment here.
Is there anything in the chat that you've seen, Mark, that would be nice to respond to?
Well, there's been some wonderful dialogue that we're not going to be able to get to, everyone. It's really been heartwarming to not only receive the shares and the support for what everyone has been sharing, but also the dialogue between each other. There was one specifically I'd like to read out if I can find it here, because there's been so much.
And then I think, you know, after that, Louis, I would love to, as we close the session, to have you lay out once again, and then maybe in more detail, you know, your 7-year plan.
Okay, I will.
Because we're talking about a very profound impulse. You know, like the blind men and the elephant, we have different experiences of what love is as a many splendored thing. And part of what we wanted to promote on the session today, not knowing that this was going to be the start of the Ukrainian troubles, is the 7-year plan that First Care International is developing around love. So as we close out, I'd love to hear that kind of final vision.
That would be really great before you speak, Mark. So before me to do that, could we ask Richard if he can make me co-host so I can share the screen?
You can share already.
You can share. Just push the share button.
Okay. Yeah, Mark, you go.
Yeah.
And again, there's so many. Thank you for all the contributions in the chat.
Yeah,
but there was one earlier,
definition.
Dr. Karoy Cuff, I believe is a short nickname. Dr. Karoy Ferguson shared this earlier, and I think it captures so much of the energy of the different views that people have shared, not only in the chat, but also the panelists. In my humble view, love as an archetypal energy is a state of being and feeling, and a state of doing. As an African American, when the subject of love is theme for discussion, I'm often reminded of what Martin Luther King Jr. said about the connection of love to power and justice. And again, timely. He said, power without love is reckless and abusive, and love without power is sentimental and anemic. Power at its best is love implementing the demands of justice, and justice at its best is power correcting everything that stands against love. In my view, then, in giving expression to these connections at individual and collective levels, we are engaged in building a care-first world, or what MLK called the beloved community. Without the acknowledgement and awareness of these connections, we may find that we are only being sentimental and anemic.
Thank you, Mark. So I think what would be really nice, Jim, of course, I know that you can save the chat, right? And we can all read it afterwards. I really would like to be with everything that everyone is saying. So what I'll do is I'll just do this here. So can you see this? My screen?
Yes, yeah, we can see it.
So hand in hand, holding the light of love steady. If I shift, oh no, here, excuse me. Can you see the screen, the next one?
Yeah.
So, okay, then I'll just go back here. So this website, I'm just creating, and we hope to have it ready for action March 1st. So everybody can see this. It's called handinhand.earth. So here I ask the question, shall we make a 7-year commitment together to hold the light of love steady as we're aiming to resolve our climate crisis and all the issues we face as humanity? We invite us all to hold hands as friends, family, and human beings everywhere. Let the warmth and connection of our hands radiate and energize the vibration of love, not to let go, but to keep it steady day and night. Thus, none of us is alone, and we all feel supported, keeping the light of love burning at home. Each of us taking ownership for the issues at hand and seeing what actions we can take each day, individually and collectively, to care for ourselves, each other, and our earth. To participate, click here. All that means that if you've decided to hold hands with someone and you are part of this register, then you can register yourself here. And here, this is just a starting world map. There's only me on it and one other person. Then it becomes visible how we're all joining. So the picture is, Jim, 7 years just came into my body. The whole thing just came into my body. I got the words 222 to 229. And you know as well as me that most people who are dealing with climate change talk about that we have to shift the whole thing between 220 and 230. But what is 222 and 229? That is just before 230 starts. So my body went into this 7-year thing. And so we experience that as a simple action of committing ourselves to do this. So in relationship to the practical action of this, when the platform works and people can just register, yes, I'm holding hands with so-and-so, and I'm with so-and-so, and others don't even have to see this. We just know that more and more people join. Then Sandra and I are holding hands. Anybody who joins, or another 10,000 who join, we're all holding hands with each other. If that begins to go, if that really begins to move in a really, that becomes an incredibly powerful field. And I call that one simple action. We're building a Care First world, we're giving courses, but this particular thing could do so much. And so for the day that we wanted to share something about this, to have this whole thing happen with Ukraine right at the moment, where Peter Mary begins to talk about being buddy of people in the Ukraine. Imagine that you can be there for somebody. Because this initiative is not just for the visionaries, it's for a lonely woman at home who is scared of COVID and scared of climate change. What can she do? Well, if she knows she is holding my hand and your hand and the hand of a Maasai in Africa and the president of the United States who has joined, what are we doing? So it's just brewing and new. But yeah, so we are ready to come into action, and I'd be very happy talking more with you and Peter and with what was her name, Katja?
Kati Tamalchek.
Yeah, about what you were already doing, because something in my body says, let's do it this year. Build up that whole field this year. And we all can join in, and you can register so quickly. If you're together in a room with a group of 12 people who say, what a great idea, and one is registered, They all pick up their phone and they say, I hold your hand. Ticka, 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 tuck. All you need to do is give your name and address, and that's it. And from your profile, which is protected and hidden, you're invited to write a story or post a video on the website where you can tell what has been happening to you. And the website keeps you updated of the developments. So that is the essential inspiration that in these last 2 months has kept me awake day and night.
Beautiful. That's a wonderful thing to embrace the cosmic dimension of love by simply holding hands. That's how simple it all is.
Yeah. And I can maybe put one little link in the chat. That is definitely the place for now where you can.
Yeah, Rita put in the link, handinhand.earth.
Yeah, I'll do it all. So this is a website I already have that is about our session. So this is the new website. That you can't just register yourself. You need to be connected to someone of us. So if anybody who is on this call would like to connect with me as an example, or any of us, with Mark or Dora or any, just send us to this email. We link up with you. Once you're linked up, then you can link up with everybody else around you, and you can all register yourselves one after the other. What we even do on the world map, Jim, is that we might not place people's names on there, not even their street address, just town, country, and postcode, so that we can find out how many people are there in all continents taking action.
Good, thank you. Thank you all. Sandra, Karen, Duran, Mark, thank you so much for a splendid discourse and expression of love at this very poignant time in history. You're all welcome to the after chat. Matt sent you the link in your emails with the link, and all of you are interested. It would, I think, be fascinating to continue this discussion more informally. You'll see the link in the chat if you don't have it. Let me close this session, everyone, by bringing in one more aspect of love. And I want to acknowledge that it's not mine, but it comes from an old woman, a crone, about 2,500 years ago in ancient Greece, when the young Socrates was sitting at her knee, asking her the question about love that he in all his wisdom could not fathom. And Diotima said to him, in the end, love is that mediating intelligence that binds everything together as one and shapes it into something that's beautiful. And I think that's been inherent and implicit in all the comments that we've heard today, that there's something beautiful about what all of you have said about love. And I just wanted, as we close, to make it more explicit in honor of the great Diotima, who said that in the end, even love bends the knee to beauty. That there's something in love that takes all of what we do, the good, the bad, the beautiful, and the ugly, even the invasion of Ukraine, and over time, shapeshifts it redemptively into something that's beautiful. And that's why Martin Luther King said that ultimately the universe, the arc of the universe, bends toward justice. So in that spirit, I want to thank the panel. I want to thank all of you. And now in the spirit of the trees, in the spirit of all living things in nature, have blessings on your day. And we'll see you tomorrow here on Humanity Rising. Bye for now.
Thank you, Jim.
Thank you, everyone.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Beautiful session.
Mm.